Alrighty. Okay, so we're going to begin to look at the two gigantic lotus flowers, or whatever they are, that Anuksunamum is holding, as we see here. 1, 2. In previous episodes, we've identified these as in other cultures as well as modern symbolism. You see the Vatican coat of arms, the two keys, which were originally given to Saint Peter or whoever to begin the Catholic Church, regardless of what they are today. A certain symbolism has been held from ancient times. And we're going to look at fertility of consciousness and the associated genetics within divine beings, divine species, and we're going to separate them from the human species. Since we're analyzing consciousness and plants, we're going to take a look at their types of fertility. Sooner or later we're going to go into the insect perspectives and associations, specifically the bee, as it's responsible for all fertility, plant fertility on the earth. And in this picture we can see, okay, what's it about? It's a hidden fertility. It's highly suggestive. When, like the black and gold, there's a association to the bee there. Okay, we've got the stripes, black and gold, yellow, whatever stripes, just like the bee. We can see that all around in this image, which is from a ivory box chest in Tutankhamun's tomb. Now, I've said that this is Tutankhamun. There was two. We're dealing with the doppelganger of sorts in the tomb, and while it appears to be Pharaoh's tomb, we're going to see that this is not the real appointed divine king in the tomb, and the tomb is being used as an example of a genetic code, and showing that although on the surface of things may appear human, even beneath the skin there is something else entirely at work. And we've seen, showed pictures of Tutankhamun from his father's namesake, showing very different images of what we see. They've done the facial reconstructions of this, and it looks nothing like the actual king depicted in the tomb. Here we see a genetic malfunction. This thing was a buck-toothed, club-footed, highly viral being. So I'm going to show that there's something in human genetics. There is a divine gene hiding in human genetics, and we're going to show how there's something being described here that's in there that's in direct conflict with the divine gene. And in previous episodes I've also discussed the nature of Horus being a double being. Our friend Crowley described Horus as a twin being. if you're inclined to listen to that kind of thing. So he had a few crumbs there. I've never really found anything that's like I can really incorporate all that much, but there's a few crumbs of knowledge in there. And whatever, can learn from anything. So, fertility of consciousness. Okay, now I've been onto this virus, born a virus, an animal virus that's worked its way into the human genome. We've all seen Jurassic Park. You can use certain things in the genetic code to fill in the gaps. I believe that we are descendants of the divine, obviously. And I believe Horus was possibly the beginning of how this, with the creation of Horus, was the beginning where this thing in the human genome entered the human species, as well as the divine gene through that entity. Okay, so I might need a close-up here. We're talking about fertility. Now the virus affects human beings, causes all sorts of malfunctions. Let's see, like physically, you can look at diabetes. It can form in the womb, in cold environments. I believe the virus is manipulating our genetics from within. Viruses don't like the cold. In order to protect itself, it can do things with possibly insulin levels, to protect itself within the host. But it's a highly cerebral virus. Those with the divine gene it interferes with. That's why people get, when you enter a higher consciousness, there's an interference. People can end up with schizophrenia, depression, all sorts of things like that, because it's in conflict with the higher thinking. It doesn't want you to reach the subconscious. It's responsible for compartmentalizing. Everything we do originates in the subconscious. Most of us are unaware of our actions. Science tells us this. Modern science. Check the facts if you want. I haven't got time to spell it all out to you. Maybe later. Okay, so doctors will tell you that certain mental illnesses, schizophrenia, develop at coming of age, mostly 21, and just go bam. Now, I believe there is a trigger before that, but the main effect, So we see with the coming of age, the strengthening of the individual, we see the virus also being activated, like twin peaks. One peaks, the other rises with it in direct conflict. A doppelganger. Yeah, we know David Lynch is onto a fair bit of stuff. I'm in room 315 myself. Fertility affect this viral gene interrupting at certain stages of growth, sexual maturity, mental maturity. So we're going to identify these keys of consciousness. We've seen Viracocha hold the keys as well. We see them in the Vatican and we see them here being described. Might have to get a close-up of this one. So, it's subtle, it's very subtle. I don't know if you can see this. Camera's probably too blurry. Here we have we have a little node here. There's levels as we go up. We see a division in the levels. I mean, it's a very busy picture indeed. So segmented, and then here we have the head of the flower breaking. Now the thing in the tomb also had a head wound. Now this picture gets pretty biblical. You'd be surprised how much compressed information is in this. I'm talking first and second death. Firstly, the flower is picked. First death. This goes to Revelations. The quote, "Those who survive the first death will survive the second." Okay, we've got the first death, the flower is picked, and then we have a break at the head base, which we know the thing in the tomb also suffered a wound to the head. Yeah, and okay, back to fertility. See a node here at one stage. Sorry about the shaking. We're going to show how this represents the male member. As we go up levels, we see a flaccid penis, slightly larger. You'll have to take my word for it, but there's a vein in there. The vein that delivers the blood to the engorged member. You see a stage of maturity here. You can also see if you look closely, if you find the picture yourself, you can see the eye or the urinal tract there. But here at the top level we see the fully erect member, but at the level where it's full mature, we see it break, and at the break we see a superfluous something coming out. Obviously that's the peak of fertility release, and we see this, it's being dispersed back to this figure. Now this is not the true counterpart and mate of Tutankhaten, and this is Tutankhaten, as we see. Looks very different to what we have in the sarcophagus, or whatever the triple layered boot is. So yeah, and you can see here now, when, like I think I've described this, when we see offerings of this kind into hands being brought to pharaohs in other pictures, Egyptian depictions, the arms, if you noticed, they're awkwardly crossed here. Now this is a rarity, and you will only find it in tombs of the tomb walls of the lower class. Now this shows a definite separation of the classes, genetically speaking. There's crossed wires there. Now it's quite easy to not, as you can see, she's got one arm over the other, like, why bring it into this awkward position? There's a meaning to this, just like the eyes. You know, you shouldn't see the full eye, it's a side view. It means if you're looking at this message, they're looking at you too. It's like quantum cryptography. You can't go in without being seen. Okay, this perception, this type of cognition exists in consciousness in the universe itself. It's a replication of that. So if you can enter it, if you can read it, there's gonna be, your perception will cause an interference pattern, and you better watch out, because it'll be looking right at you. So, okay, well, we've got mixed genes. We've got the crossed arms. So there is a genetic difference. There's an incompatibility there. I don't know why I'm having trouble with that word. And okay, so how does this relate to Club 27? Well, I believe there is a divine gene there, and it's being attacked or conflicted with by this viral component within the system. Now, survival is possible, and in the future we're gonna look at survival techniques for those people that are possibly aware from a young age that they have this gene. I know for a fact that some people are, and taking measures to avoid this. We're going to look at the battle of Horus removing his own eye. Like I said, the eye is connected to each side of the brain, left and right, which is holds different forms of consciousness. You can call it male or female if you want. It's where the divine feminine comes into it, the higher abstract way of viewing the world, which is pretty much a skeleton key into everything once you got it. Okay, what else can I say about this? So yeah, this is where we're going with it, the genetic code, and we'll show how Da Vinci is also a continuation of this genetic code. Now, there's one thing about Da Vinci: he was highly aware of this divine gene, and we can see there's a big lesson if we look at his life. Just as Da Vinci was about to become famous, explode onto the scene, he disappeared. He disappeared for exactly 2 years. Now, he knew that all the external and the internal is all connected. There are external components to someone's demise in the world. How he experienced the deja vu upon meeting Lisa, began to analyze it, what it all meant. This is what it means. We can have a look, we can go right into the mind of Da Vinci, how he perceived the world. So yeah, he was Club 27 too, but he bailed out. He disrupted that continuum of the virus. That was his battle. That was the battle of Horus. And I believe he did come across monsters in that time as well. Check out my other video on Da Vinci's monsters. He never wrote anything personal about his life, other than we can see it, we can decode it. But yeah, he wrote about it, and he drew them, painted them, whatever. Yeah, he looked into this cave, and he said he was never so scared in all his life, and he was compelled to depict these creatures he's seen. Check them out. yeah, dangers of evolving with a virus in your system, using the virus negatively. So CRISPR will probably start editing these genes and maybe suppress them or recombine them or take them out altogether. Who knows what effects that'll have. But this virus is the decider when it comes to the divine. There's a choice there. It gives a being a choice in reality, and we're going to explore this system, because when you look at this this image on the chest, it's describing natural systems, and it's included this virus in this natural system for a purpose. It's found a purpose for it. You feeling me? Okay, now don't want to turn this into a freaking cult or a religion or anything, but this is some underground shit, and I'm gonna show you exactly some really ancient Masonism here, stuff that you won't find in any book or anywhere on the internet, or you won't get any Masonic Lodge member to divulge, because they probably don't know it themselves. Most of them don't make it past the first degree. It's all compartmentalized, only the dudes at the top know, and we all know it's been infiltrated. Yeah. So be careful of that. The devil always makes his house near a church. But yeah, like, there's evidence of the metric system. Like I said, this encompasses holographic principle, where the surface can contain more the surface of a thing contains more information than the actual capacity it's supposed to hold. That's a weird high contradiction, but yeah, holographic principle. And the box this is on was found empty, by the way. So yeah, all the goodies are on the outside of it. And if you were to get some sort of program to computer program to analyze this box chest, I think you'll find some things hidden in the spaces in between. But yeah, we're going to continue. And like I said, like, this thing is biblical origins, especially Revelations. Don't mess with me, hey? Like, don't. Like, I can show you Grail evidence. Like, this is in the tomb. There's Grails everywhere. Trinity themes. Here we go. Here's another Grail. Now, where do you think these stories came from? Huh? I'm not telling you. I'm asking you, where do you think